You're listening to the Journey Podcast. How can we use psychoastrology to better understand ourselves and find happiness? Listen to today's episode for insights and practical advice. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Today is part of Mental Health Awareness Week in the UK, and this is a special bonus episode. Happiness is a universal desire that has been pursued by individuals throughout history. In recent years, there has been a growing interest in the concept of being in the flow and connecting with the universe as a means of finding happiness and fulfillment. Our guest, who coined the term psychoastrology, explores these concepts and provides insight into how they can be used to achieve greater happiness and well-being. In this episode, we explore the link between being in the flow, connecting with the universe, and achieving happiness. Our guest provides practical tips and strategies for cultivating a positive mindset, building resilience, and tapping into the universal source energy. Lisa Tahir is from New Orleans, Louisiana, where she became a licensed clinical social worker in 2000. She expanded her practice to Los Angeles, California in 2014 and attained her second LCSW license in California in 2016. She's additionally certified in EMDR Level 1, Reiki Level 2, and as a thought coach through the Institute for Transformational Thinking in Los Angeles, California. Lisa has private practice office locations and residences in both Los Angeles and New Orleans, and she lives between both cities with her cats Jiggy and Baby. Lisa is passionately committed to working with people to help them heal through all of the senses of the body by utilizing intuition, therapy, energy healing, meditation, Reiki healing, crystal healing, nutrition, sound frequencies, yoga, exercise, podcasting, writing, and teaching. She enjoys speaking on topics related to psychoastrology, spirituality, emotional health, physical health, and mental well-being. She hosts the popular weekly podcast, All Things Therapy, found on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, YouTube, and other places where podcasts are found. Here is my interview with the wonderful Lisa Tahir. Hi, Lisa. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you, and we will be exploring the idea of happiness today and how it relates to mental health and holistic well-being. Welcome to the podcast.
Petra, thank you so much for having me on the journey. I am delighted to be with you and our audience.
It's my pleasure to have you here. And for starters, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your story?
Yeah, I'd love to, Petra. I'm a licensed therapist, and I found this profession, this calling, this passion for myself and my life as a result of entering therapy when I was 21 and finished college, was working at a restaurant, waiting tables and bartending, and it was really fun. And yet I didn't feel like a sense of purpose and deep meaning. And I knew I wanted more for myself. I wasn't sure what it was. And when I was led to start therapy as a client to work on myself, to heal some of my own inner wounding and emotional vulnerabilities, I knew from the first few sessions with my therapist, Marilyn, that this is what I'm going to do with my life. I loved the idea of helping people heal themselves, really be seen and heard, and find their way and navigate through experiences that didn't make sense to them, that were wounding, that hurt them. And I've been doing this work for the last almost 30 years since then, and have written a book. I host All Things Therapy podcast. So just really looking for ways to connect with people so that you know that whatever you've been through, you can really heal and you can feel better. You can have happiness. You can feel deep joy no matter what your old story has been of your life. You can tell a new story and start to become the person living that story, and it becomes your life each day.
Mhm. Wow, thank you so much for sharing your story. And what an amazing journey it has been for you. And
Thank you.
you touched a little bit on happiness there. Now, happiness can mean different things to different people. So, how would you describe happiness in your life?
Well, our sense of happiness is always evolving, and it might sound even simplistic, happiness as a goal. However, when you think about the times in your life that you've actually felt the most joy, the most peace, the most contentment, I see all of those as offshoots of happiness. That's when you're the most aligned. It's when you feel the most connected to yourself. It's when you're treating yourself the best. It's when you're really doing things that feel good and you're available to others emotionally. You're able to listen, you're able to be present, you're able to really be your truest self, and others light up around the truest expression of ourselves. And it gives others permission to also be happy and to put down some of the strivings and the criticism and the judgments of themselves. It's when we're really the most deeply connected to ourselves and to other human beings and our pets and in our world. So the value of happiness is very significant because it's when you're not in a state of fight, flight, or freeze, which is when the central nervous system is on hyper alert. That happens when you're worried. That happens when you're stressed. That happens when you're feeling concerned about things that you're not sure how to even do them or meet them, like approaching the first of the month and rent is due, and maybe your bank account isn't showing the funds right now. And so you start to really disconnect from your true self and go into like this fight, flight, or freeze response. What do I need to do? And though I feel like all of us have been in that place, there's nothing wrong with that. When we start to learn how to do things like meditate to find our alignment, to find our inner connection with the universe, with something greater than us, and then begin to ask for that help, to ask for that meeting us right where we are, around our bills, around our partners, around our families, around our friendships, around our personal health, and start to really co create, feel the peace, even if nothing's changed in the few moments you're meditating in your physical life, in your inner life. Something's changed, something's shifted. You start to feel like, like I feel like this is going to work out for me. And from that place, new things come your way, a new opportunity for work, or maybe a check actually shows up in the mail for something you completely forgot about. And opportunities really start to open up, and you're able to start to step on this seemingly invisible path forward that provides for you what you need. It allows you to trust more in yourself and in life, and you start to feel more happy. Your heart starts to unconstrict. You might feel it as I'm speaking. You start to feel more possibility, more openness. People come to you in that same vibration, and you really begin to live your life in this new way of more harmony and fuller expression. And the book that I wrote that you and I spoke about in another conversation, The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness, lays out some of these specifics for you to help you be able to do this. And I wonder what you're thinking and feeling, Petra, as I'm sharing these things personally.
Yeah,
Like if it's
yeah,
resonating somewhere within you, if it brings up a memory for yourself.
yeah, absolutely. I think that for the majority of my personal life, I spent a long time not following that authentic self, that authentic path. And it did show me the difference between how I perceive happiness and how I was during that time when I felt more empty, not whole, very disconnected, disjointed, and a feeling to moving onto that path and really pursuing more of what you have described and coming into alignment, coming into flow, and what kind of difference that made in my life. And I do experience the feelings that you describe as well of being more open, more in alignment, more able to receive the things that are coming my way as well. And it makes a huge difference, not just in my everyday life, but also how I feel, how I think, and everything connected to that. So I can fully kind of dive into as you're talking about that, into those feelings and really experience them. And I do feel myself expanding as well, which is another thing that I kind of experience when I'm in that flow and I feel happy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very interesting how you describe that.
And Petra, what you just shared is really in alignment with your Chiron placement, which we spoke about at another moment
Hmm.
briefly. And my book centering upon this area of vulnerability. And for you, Chiron being in the sign of Taurus speaks to a childhood experience of neglect in some way, of being devalued, of even as you get older, devaluing yourself. When you mention that disconnection, neglecting some of what you really need, what really makes you happy, various reasons that you feel disconnected from it. And the expression of that, the experience of that has to do with in your philosophy of life, in your world view, that ninth house placement. And you've so beautifully healed that on your own through the work that you do as a podcaster to really connect deeply to your life philosophy, a worldview, reaching people around the world as you do, and healing your sense of neglect and really stepping into and finding your own happiness. So, a lot of us are naturally healing our areas of vulnerability and wounding through our work, through things that really light us up. And you've naturally found that. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it is true that sometimes that takes a long time to find that and to find that healing. It isn't always very obvious, let's put it that way, until, like, for example, when I ran across your book, when you mentioned that, until you find something or you read something that kind of makes it click for you what's been happening. But that can take some time. Often that takes years or even decades for us to find that path. So I also find that quite interesting that even though we are trying to find ways to heal, and sometimes we realize there is something that needs to be healed, sometimes takes a little bit of time to find where that healing is going to come from.
It's interesting you say that, Petra, because this morning before this time that we have together, I was meditating. I was led to read something by Abraham Hicks, and it was talking specifically about time. And time is something I think about often. As humans, we needed to construct time to be able to organize our day and plan meetings and organize our lives. However, time is a man made, a person made construct.
Mhm.
Time is eternal. It's just unfolding in the now being the only moment where we are. And Abraham Hicks' teaching was encouraging us if we can really try to let go of this limiting factor of time. And even I know I've thought that and believe that things take all this time to unfold, and they actually don't, that it's only the distance from where you are and what you want is a matter of just really being able to surrender our limiting beliefs, surrender these beliefs taught in our cultures around things taking all this time versus when you're aligned, something can come to you today that you really most deeply want, that you've been needing and looking for, and time really starts to dissolve in your life. And it's one of the reasons I wrote my book. So it'll be easy for people to find healing. So it won't take them decades, in fact. So it
Mhm.
won't take them all of this, years of their youth when we tend to have more strength and energy. Like you can find it now. So I really encourage anyone listening to play with the notion of what if time serves me? What if I am right on time? What if this moment I'm in is perfect for me and everything that I have lived up until this moment has brought me to this conversation, to this experience that I'm ready for now? And I'm going to release my resistance to things taking long. I'm just going to step forward and believe that it can come to me now in this moment. And as you feel that peace, that's a manifestation. Our emotions are a manifestations, not only the physical reality. And that's something not taught, I think, often enough, that when you feel in your heart some peace, some softening, some openness, like, oh, yeah, like okay, like this is going to work out. That's a manifestation of it being done. And now the next part of it is for us just to move in inspired action where we feel led, an inkling to go somewhere, to read something, to make a call to someone, to send an email, receive an email. So I'd love for you to play with this too, Petra, to really release resistance around time and see what happens. And ask, I'd like it now. I'd like it today. Show me today evidence that I'm on my path to everything that I want. And as much as that feels really exciting for you, and notice what happens even today in your emotions, which are a manifested indicator that you are absolutely on it and it's coming. And I wonder what you think about that.
Wow, great and amazing insight, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as you're talking, I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I am, grinning from ear to ear because I wish somebody would have told me that 20 years ago that I can release that resistance. I can let go of that notion of things take time, things take a long time, and I could just ask for it and make myself ready for that. So,
Yes.
yeah, wonderful point. And I hope
And
our listeners take
and
that
also
to heart as well.
And Petra, it's okay that it didn't happen 20 years ago because I think
Mhm.
that's like the biggest takeaway. You're actually ready now. You wouldn't have been ready 20 years ago,
Yeah.
or it would have come. So it's like to really let go of all these things that, we feel are hangups or think are hangups. You're actually right where you're meant to be to receive this now. And to like, that'll free you to just move forward in joy and your full expression. Because I'm sure in some way, like you were 20 years ago, right where you were meant to be also.
Mhm.
So to really, when you start to feel into kind of the perfection of the timing of our lives, we start to let go of all this stuff that just creates like a buildup. And you start to really feel more trusting in life. Like things are going to show up right as I'm ready, right as I need, and like start to get excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel sort of in my solar plexus area, this tingle of, I guess you could call it excitement as you're talking. So I am picking up on that energy of almost the expectancy that something is coming, the
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
joyful expectancy that it's coming. So, yeah.
And what you're saying also, Petra, is the next step. It's so important when you reach that place and it's like, oh, it's like delicious. Like, yes. And then I would say keep it to yourself. Keep this good feeling, keep your intentions, these dreams that you have, keep them private, like a baby in gestation in the mother's womb. Keep your dreams. They're in gestation as well. And sometime when we talk about something, others that, might not be on the same vibration could say something that then maybe knocks you back a little bit or causes you to doubt. So it's really okay to just keep this good feeling every day if you do it for a few minutes, really visioning and feeling this place that you just reached, and then getting on about your day and letting it go. And then the next day doing the same thing and letting it go. Like to really like protect in a loving way what you're nurturing, what you intend to manifest and live, that it can really help it stay very pure for you.
Yeah, that's a really good point because sometimes the outside influences that we encounter in our families, our lives, or even our circle of friends can be almost part of bringing those limiting beliefs back. So that's a really great point to nurture that in private a little bit and keep that feeling every day, keep it going. Yeah,
And then
wonderful.
if you can find a manifestation partner, like I have Nina Kaiser, who you know in Germany. Hello, Nina. And we take time each month to meditate. We'll set aside 10 minutes for her intentions, 10 minutes for mine. And though she's in Germany and I'm in America, we'll set aside that time, send an email what we intend to manifest, what we most deeply desire. And these are things that others might say that's impossible. But I know, and Nina knows, in the realm of infinite possibilities, everything's possible. So we go big, like the most amazing things we want. And we just sit in meditation, imagining that coming to each other. And we share updates along the way, like, oh my gosh, that sign had that person's name on it. That, this happened. And all these little indicators sprinkled throughout our lives and our day. We really nurture like the path, like the breadcrumbs on the trail, so to speak. So if you can find somebody that doesn't limit you. That's like, of course you can have that. Of course you can be, do, or have anything, and really holds that vision with you. It can be so wonderful to have a person in life that just, sees your possibility and not any limitation at all. And that can really serve you to create a friendship with someone like that.
Mhm. Yeah, wonderful advice. That's great. And you mentioned now several things that people could do to get started on this path. So you mentioned meditation, you've mentioned visioning, you've mentioned partnering up with someone. Are there any other daily practices or routines that you have in your life to stay in this flow and in this feeling of contentment and happiness?
I have a lot of them, Petra. For me, daily, it's about nurturing my own energy. And that for me and for you, it could look different. It's meditation every morning. It's exercise in some form about 6 days a week, be it yoga, walking, weightlifting, a fun class that I want to take at the gym. It's having time to reflect, alone time to reflect, to get centered. It's time to work on addressing emails. And then it'll be social time as I feel led to, and really planning that intentionally. So I'm not spreading myself thin. It might be several times a week, sometime even once a week if I have a lot going on in my mind or that I want to accomplish. So to really be intentional with your social time as much as possible. For some of you that have families, and like I live by myself right now, so it's a bit easier to do that. For those of you that have more complex living situations, this is going to look different for you. It might be having your alone time on a walk, walking around the block, walking in your neighborhood, driving in your car. You might learn to take 15-minute drives to just kind of be with your thoughts, be with yourself. So get creative with how you need to have some time to yourself. I do think that's important, Petra, for us to all carve out some intentional alone time to really reflect, like, how do I feel about myself? How am I doing here? And ask and answer what you really most deeply need. And then come up with some ways to give that to yourself. Like maybe you need to get into therapy, or maybe you need to go work with some type of healing practitioner or an acupuncturist. I go to acupuncture as well. So it's really about identifying what you need to stay as much as possible in your harmony, in your best state, and knowing that changes every day. That you don't have to be, it's not about perfection. It's about kind of what's going to help me be as good feeling or even as neutral as I can go today,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
giving that to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Making sure that you have time to fill your cup as well while
And
you are.
planning it.
Yeah.
Because again, if you're busy, if you have children, if you're, like I understand that a lot of people, there's so many moving parts of their lives, they don't have all day to sit and meditate. And the good news is that you don't have to. And even if you notice, if you're listening right now, you're like, oh, like I'm just overwhelmed, Lisa. That's awesome to know. So then maybe look at your calendar for this next 30 days and plan when is a day that I can maybe go get away for a few hours and go do something for myself, and plan it. Put that on your calendar, schedule around it, delegate some of your responsibilities to be able to have that time. So it's okay if you can't do it now, today, you can plan for it. And when you notice planning for your self care, for what you need, your body's going to relax in this moment because it knows the break is coming. It knows you're tending to it. Your inner self knows this is coming for me. So I can kind of like relax and feel okay. So try that. For those of you really busy with a lot of moving parts, plan things for yourself and notice how much better you feel today as a result of that planning.
Yeah. That's actually great advice because I found that very often when I don't make the conscious effort to carve out some time for something, it doesn't happen. So, having it in your calendar, planning for it, and making the space for that is actually really, really important. I think that will work quite well for many people.
Awesome.
Yeah. And Lisa, do you want to go over some of your own programs and services so listeners can get a feel for how they could connect with you in their healing journey or how they could work with you?
Thank you, Petra. I would love that. And for anyone and everyone that listens to Petra's show, that is a fan of her work as I am, I would love to give you a session by Zoom or by phone if you're prefer that at 50% off my rate. I do individual sessions working with you on helping you heal whatever's going on. I like to start with what's most important for you, and then we can weave in things as they pertain to you, but I really want you to feel like you can start with what's most important. I'd love to give you a session at 50% off by Zoom or phone. And additionally, I've started an unlimited monthly therapy program where, say, if you're going through something and you feel like you just need a quick 10-minute call or text or Zoom, you can reach out to me, and it's $2,500 for the month. And I would take half off of that for first time people, where again, allowing me, time to get back to you and considering weekends, that if you just feel like you need little check-ins or in the moment kind of help, that I'm available for that. So I'd love to gift listeners with half off either of those options. My podcast is called All Things Therapy. It streams everywhere podcasts are found, over 330 episodes. And I have an online class with some of these tools and techniques that I use. I call them psycho-spiritual tools. They combine psychology, spirituality, and taking personal responsibility for ourselves and our happiness. And all of that can be found through my website, which is nolatherapy.com, NOLATHERAPY.com. And I'm on social media at Nola Therapy as well, if people want to connect there.
Amazing. And first of all, thank you so much for your generosity in offering the discount to our listeners. What an amazing gift. And thank you for providing that. And do you want to mention also, you have books that you have written. So do you want to mention some of those as well?
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, my book, The Chiron Effect, Healing Our Core Wounds Through Astrology, Empathy, and Self-Forgiveness. If you go to nolatherapy.com, there's a button, order my book, and there'll be links there for you to check them out. And if my book is not in a local bookstore where you live, I would love for you to go to your bookstore and give them. The website has my ISBN number, I believe it's called. Yes. And my publisher is looking to do international publications. And the more that people request, the faster that's going to happen. And Inner Traditions is my publisher. So I'd love for you to go in your local bookstore and they can reach out. And I intend to see my book all over the world available.
Yeah, I can't wait. I tried to get a copy in France, and Lisa was kind enough to send that to me. And I've thoroughly enjoyed her book and learning about the Chiron effect and how it figures into healing and healing core wounds. So I think that would be a wonderful resource for our listeners as well. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah,
And
Petra. And as a result of your show and such, my publisher is interested in moving forward with foreign publications. So again, I'd really love all of you to go in your bookstore and ask for the Chiron Effect and give that ISBN number and to get my book to you and everywhere. That would be so wonderful.
yeah, amazing. Hopefully, we'll all jump in and support you in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And as Lisa has mentioned, she has her own podcast called All Things Therapy. And we will be linking to the podcast and to all of Lisa's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on all of the links on how you can get in touch with her, how you can work with her, and how you can set up a session with her if that's what you feel called to do after this episode. And this has been another incredible episode. And I really hope our listeners have enjoyed the journey into happiness as much as I have. It has been fantastic chatting with you on the podcast, Lisa. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your insight, and your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Petra. And I want to have you on my show later this year, and I would love to schedule that with you.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. We'll do a podcast swap. That sounds great.
Yes, that's perfect. I'd love it.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and
You're
take
welcome.
care.
Bye.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please subscribe, share on social media, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the Journey blog. Sending you love and courage, and see you next week.